Hello everyone, this is the next video in my series about share trading. Today we're going to be seeing how I find these shares, the shares that I've been sharing from May, June, July. Every month I've been posting about a few of the penny shares and shares that have been doing really well. And a common question is, how am I finding these shares? Can you post your method of how you find these shares? So I'm going to be sharing primarily how I'm finding those shares, what kind of methods I employ, and you can probably use it. This is for UK, and you can probably use similar methods for other countries as well. And people who've been watching my channel will know that, like cryptocurrency, I've been doing a series of videos about how to do share trading for people who've never done share trading. I myself have never done share trading before the beginning of this year. And one of the reasons why I started this series is also because, like me, people who don't know how to do share trading or who are a bit skeptic to do share trading, I wanted to kind of break it down. Whatever I learned this year, I wanted to kind of break it down, and the kind of benefits that I was getting out of share trading, I want to share it with the community. And in fact, it was one of the common questions, why are you posting these videos, especially, when you make money, why are you posting it? Why are you spending so much time posting it? The reason is one of my office colleagues actually explained about share trading to me beginning of this year. And I didn't know a lot of these concepts. I be really honest. Whatever I'm explaining, I started learning some of these concepts only after he gave me a little bit of a head start, explained some of the basics to me. And I didn't know about, share trading through ISA for that matter. Even though I've been using investment ISA in the last year, I didn't fully understand stock and shares ISA for that matter in UK, and a lot of these things. So which is why I kind of started that series from basics for people who've never done share trading, give them confidence, explain them what it is, and just also what I've been doing is over the period of the last 4 months, I'm also kind of, because I'm not a financial expert, I can't give you investment advice, but I'm also sharing the shares that I'm buying from May, June, July, August. Every month I post an update to say that these are the shares that I have bought. So September I didn't post an update to the shares that I bought. I'll also explain why I haven't posted a September update. This is kind of my September update. And I'll also be looking at some of the shares, how typically what we do is we look at the shares that we have been talking about in May, June, July, how they've been progressing, what's their, from the point that we discussed it in this video series, how much they have done, what is the profits that they have collected. We'll explain that as well. Another thing that we're going to do is, interesting question came up, are you doing investment or trading? What is the difference between investment and trading? So I will explain that as well, because that's a fundamental question, investment versus trading, and that will determine how much profits that you can make, and also determine whether or not you can control your losses. I've separately posted a video about how not to make losses during share trading, but I'll explain the difference between investment and trading and why it is very important from a mindset perspective. So let's get on to the video. So if you want to watch my other videos in this series, then if you go to my channel and click on playlists, you can actually see the series for one playlist for share trading, another playlist for cryptocurrency investment, specifically in English. I have the same equivalent versions in Tamil as well. People will know that the kind of shares that I invest in are penny shares, or shares that are basically growing and have a growth potential. So how do I find these shares before they start to increase in share price? So this is the website that I primarily use. I use a number of bulletin boards and platforms, but primarily 60 to 70% I use is lse.co.uk. This is for London. So this is for the London Stock Exchange. So if you go to the London Southeast lse.co.uk website, you don't have to pay for this. It's completely free. So here there are a lot of indicators, and we'll be looking at what indicators I use, which probably gives you some of the options to find the shares that I have been talking about. So you will see that there is a section here on the right called as top risers and top fallers. And that kind of gives you every day, what are the shares that are going up, what are the shares that are falling down on a daily basis for that particular day. And you will also see that, on top of this is a good indicator, but on top of this, you will also see that there is a tab called volume, because more than the shares that are rising and falling, because shares go up and go down every day for a number of reasons, and that could even happen with 2 or 3 trades, or 10 people buying a share could impact it. But volume is what is more important. This basically says that many millions of shares are being traded on a daily basis, and then most traded basically is the dollar value. Now, volume kind of sometimes can be useful, sometimes may not be useful, because like Iconic Labs and Vela in this list, basically they have billions and billions of shares. So it doesn't matter whether the millions are getting traded, the percentage of shares that are getting traded is still smaller. So you need to take this and compare with the total shares that that company has, and see if like more than 5-10% of the shares, free float shares, are being traded on a daily basis, which means there's a lot of attraction, there's a lot of interest in these shares. That's the first indication to get it. So it's not just those 5 shares. You can also go to the click on the today's risers and fallers, and you can basically see the full list as well. And on top of this, there's something called as share chat, which is basically the chatter or talk around these shares. It kind of gives you which of these shares is being most talked about, how many people are talking about it and how much are they talking about it. That probably gives you an indication there's a lot of interest on top of the volume. If you combine it with the chatter, that kind of gives you an indication saying that there is a lot of interest in these shares. And typically these kind of shares, penny shares, which are kind of going to grow, and there is a lot of interest that organically grows. Pinch of salt, we need to take this information, because sometimes empty vessels make more noise as well. So some of these shares, like for example, some of the shares like even Iconic for that matter, sometimes there may not be any substance, but there might be ramping going on. So you need to take it with a pinch of salt. So if you go to the share chat, if you click on it and if you go to the share chat, you can actually read through the information that people are talking about, and you can understand whether it's basically empty chat or there is meaning to it, there is substantial information that is being discussed, and that kind of gives you an early indication to make sure that you're going to be interested in that share. And then you click on the RNS tab on the particular share, and it will give you like the last 1 year or probably more RNS, and you click on the RNS against it. For example, Supply Me is one of the shares that I talked about in my previous month's videos. So I'm going to click on price monitoring extensions. Are not that interesting. It's basically just price information. But if there is a business update, if there is a concrete business update or a annual return or a quarterly return, you open that and read it, and there's a lot of news about the company that's been officially and legally published by the company. So more than trusting any news website or any blog article, these are all legally published, and this has more weightage with regards to the data that is present in that RNS content. And this is very structured, and if you go and read, so like from the volume and chatter, you let's say pick up like 10 companies, and then you look at you compare the volume with the percentage, and you kind of narrow it down to 3 or 4 companies. And then once you've narrowed it down, then you go and read the RNS for like the important RNS, at least for the last 5-6 months, and you need to spend at least 2 or 3 days for these shares. And then from that 3 or 4 shares, you then pick like 1 or 2 shares that you think is going to make big, or then you decide to invest with it. So that's the kind of analysis that you need to do before you actually pick a share and start to invest with it. And you can, if you have a group of friends who are kind of like-minded, you can basically bounce off the ideas as well. And I bounce off the ideas with my brother, and I have a small group of friends. I kind of bounce off these ideas. When we find these shares, we are in a group and we kind of bounce ideas off each other. My brother has also found a lot of these shares for me, and we kind of exchange the information that we kind of discover on shares, and that kind of helps when you have a group of friends as well. So that's how I identify. And then you can create a watch list like this. And once you create a watch list, what is more useful is you can monitor in one page, what is the percentage that it's going up and down by. And you can also look at immediately in the morning 7 a.m. From the morning 7 a.m., 8 a.m. is the trading time start. 7 a.m. the RNSs will get published. And it's an easier way to track whether or not your particular share that you've bought has got an RNS for that particular day. So if it has, you will see RNS as 1 or 2. That means 2 means there's 2 RNSs that have been published. So then you can easily click on it instead of following everything individually and going and checking for RNS. You can click on the RNS and you can start reading about it. That's how you find these shares. Now, quick update before we go on to the new shares or the other stuff. Supply Me was a share that I talked about in my previous video. For the month of August, I gave an update saying that I bought it. I bought it at 0.0005, which is like 0.05 pence. And I published the video on August 16th when it was 0.0032 at that point of time, wherein I had a profit of 540%. By that time, I had published screens of where I bought it, when I bought it. And a couple of days after I had published my video on 18th of August, it was 0.008. Which basically was like more than double of the value that I had already published. By the time I published my video, to the couple of days later, it was almost like 100% higher. And for me, it was like nearly 1,500% in the span of 3 to 4 weeks. And that's kind of possible if you do this analysis, do this kind of analysis. That is what is possible. Spending so much time, spending so much energy to find these shares, to understand what they do. If you have seen my August video, I kind of explained how much of analysis you need to do in a little bit more detail. And that's kind of what is possible if you are able to identify a share like that. The kind of returns that is possible, that's nearly 15 times the return. So if I've invested £1,000 on it, I get like £15,000 return on it. Obviously that price has come down a bit right now, but I'm just giving you an indication to say that what is possible from a share trading perspective. In UK at least, the kind of information and the kind of certainty that you can go with. Some of the other shares from my previous videos from May onwards, whatever we've talked about, a few of these shares. I mean, we talked about like at least 11 or 12 shares, of which a lot of it has done really well, but these are probably the top performers. A few of them have probably stayed intact, but these are probably the top performers. Like GGP, we talked about it on 12th of May, and it was 7 pence when we published the video on that day. And couple of weeks back on it was around 27 pence. Today it's sitting at 20 pence, but that's like almost 286%, nearly 4 times the profit that you could have made. If you have put £1,000 on it, you could have probably got like £4,000 back on that particular day. That's the kind of returns that was possible for GGP, for example. ODX, we published the video on 19th of July where it was 36 pence. And I mean, today it is sitting at around 79-80 pence, but a couple of weeks back again it was around 94 pence, where it was 161%. So nearly like if you have invested £1,000, you get like almost £2,500 in return from that particular share. So this is kind of the examples that you can get. So most of these shares, like till NCYT, you can get about 50% roughly from the time that we published it or talked about it in this video. And even if you have gone and found these shares, even after that point of time, that's the kind of profit that you could have made. But given how I find these shares, if you are able to find a share like this, the profits are even higher. So let's see what is the potential between investment and trading, right? Why investment and why trading? Or what is investment and what is trading? So investment is basically buying a share and not selling it when it's going up or down and keeping it. And why is it important? Why is it that you don't want to sell it when there is a small profit? These are some of the potential possibilities and examples. Eurasia Mining, these are all the shares that we've talked about in our videos so far. And this is what the shares have achieved in the last 9 or 10 months. So Eurasia Mining on October 2019 it was 0.004 pence, and on 25th of August, within a span of 1 year, less than 1 year, in 300 days, it was around 26 pence, which is 5,485%, which is nearly 55 times the return of investment. So if you have invested £1,000 in it, less than one year, you're getting £55,000 return on it. And again, NCYT, we talked about it, was 15 pence on 29th of Jan. And in less than 10 months, in 29th of September, it was 5.9 pounds a couple of days back. And that's like nearly 3,800%. That is nearly 39 times the return of investment. £1,000 would give you like £40,000 almost. 39,000 pounds. And these are again other examples, GGP, ODX and EMO. They've all done nearly like more than 1,000% this year alone, which is like if you invest £1,000, you're getting more than £10,000 in the same year. And there is nothing else that you can, you can't probably make more than this kind of profit just by trading alone on a daily basis. You probably make like 10-20% profit on good days, but you'll also make a loss if you're continuously trading. So trading is basically buying and selling it without waiting for a longer period. When you have invested so much time in understanding a company, when you understood what the company is doing, and you are very confident in the company's future, then you basically wait for the shares to grow and you don't just sell it for a 20-30% profit. So that's a difference between investment and trading, and I tend to buy shares for investment perspective. I mean, I at least wait for at least 100%, and once I've achieved 100%, and explained in my previous video, sometimes I top slice so I get my return, and the rest of the get my investment in return, and the rest of the shares I keep it as an investment for a longer period. So I am prepared to wait for like 7-8 months at least for many of these shares, because that's the kind of investment return that is possible from a longer term investment and from a patient's perspective. So that's why I wanted to explain the difference between investment and trading, because a lot of people say that, I've made a loss by trading. You've made a loss because you've sold it. You don't need to sell it. If you ask me if all of these shares have gone up in a straight line, no, they haven't. A lot of these shares have gone up and then they have gone down as well. So which means that sometimes you might be sitting on red. I mean, TILS as an example I gave you, I was sitting on a red, which means it was at a loss for me, but I didn't sell it at that point. Only if I sell, I make a loss. Otherwise, it's basically down on that particular day and I'm waiting till it goes up. And you're waiting because you have confidence in the company. So that's the difference between investment and trading. But at the same time, do I not trade at all? If there is an opportunity that presents itself, right, I definitely do. And I keep like 70 to 80% of my portfolio. All of the shares that I talk about, I keep at least £1,000 worth of it in my investment potential. And that's when I talk about these shares. When I publish it in a YouTube video and say I bought at least £1,000 of those shares, and I'm keeping it. And sometimes, like Valerix, for example, it is a biopharma company which is actually dealing in prostate cancer. And that was, that was at a level of about 70 pence, a couple of weeks back or even last week. And what happened was they published their human trials result about prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is a common cancer that happens in men. And it was actually a good RNS, but it was talking about scientific terms about the prostate cancer results. But people didn't understand the RNS very well. They didn't understand the results from the RNS content itself. And as a result, the shares started falling down, and it fell down by more than half. From about 70 pence, it fell to about 29 pence or 23 pence roughly, which means that it has fallen by more than 100%. And that was an ideal, more than 50%. That was an ideal opportunity to buy something for a quick trade. So 20% of my investment, I kind of keep it for fluidity, where I'm kind of buying it. If I see an opportunity for trade that presents itself, I buy it and then I wait for like 20-25% profit and I sell it, which is still decent. If I'm buying like 500 pounds of it and I'm selling it for a 25% profit, that's still a decent profit for me. But that's what happens. And Supply Me again is a classic example where a portion of it is sitting as an investment, a million shares or 2 million shares or whatever it is. I'm keeping it as an investment. But there was an opportunity that came a couple of days back where it was at around 0.5 pence. Not even 50 pence, 0.5 pence. And it fell down to about 0.4 pence, which is roughly 20-25% fall. And I knew that it was unsubstantiated, because there was really no bad news for the company. There was really, people were not able to wait for that long, and it's just a matter of time before it regained, and it regained to a support level, they call it. And it went back to 0.5. So I bought it when it was low, below 0.04 or at 0.4 level. And within a couple of days, it quickly came up to 0.5, which means I'm making like 20% profit, because I have been following these companies and I know these companies. When there is an opportunity in that company to trade, I do a small bit of trade, but I don't trade with the whole of my portfolio, because my portfolio is mainly investment. But if there is an opportunity to make a 20-25% profit in less than a 3 or 4 days time that I see and I have confidence in it, then I do trade. But if your mindset is only to trade, then you lose out on the bigger profits and the bigger opportunities that present itself by doing investment and by waiting patiently. So that's what I wanted to cover in this video. And finally, I asked for comments and feedback in my videos, just because I want to make sure that the content that I'm posting is really useful and people are able to understand it. So thank you for watching. Until next video, bye then.